You didn't choose first. You may have picked the dog, driven to the breeder, or walked into the shelter, or said yes when someone showed up at the door with a puppy in a box. You made a decision, you brought them home. But at some point after that, maybe weeks in, maybe months, something shifted. And the choice that actually mattered wasn't yours. You noticed it gradually. The way they track you specifically when you both enter a room, the way they settle faster when you're the one who sits down, the way they navigate straight to your side of the couch and nowhere else. Even when 3 other people in the house would happily accommodate them, the way the greeting when you come home is just different, more. Like there's a register of excitement reserved for you that nobody else quite unlocks. Most people assume it's whoever feeds them, or whoever walks them, or whoever has simply spent the most hours in the same room. And they're partially right, and almost completely wrong. Because what's actually happening, the mechanism underneath the preference, the biological process that turns one human into the human, is something researchers have only recently begun to understand properly. And it starts not with what you do for your dog, but with something far more fundamental. It starts with what you make them feel when nothing is happening at all. In 2008, researchers at the University of Vienna ran an experiment that was deceptively simple in design and quietly extraordinary in what it revealed. They exposed dogs to 2 types of people: humans who were consistently responsive, who noticed when the dog looked at them, who engaged when the dog sought contact, who tracked the dog's behavior and mirrored it with attention, and humans who were present but unresponsive, physically available, emotionally elsewhere. The dog's behavioral preferences formed rapidly. Within short exposure windows, they were already orienting toward the responsive person more frequently, seeking proximity more insistently and showing measurably lower cortisol in their presence. Not because those people had fed them, not because they had provided anything materially, simply because they had noticed. The foundational unit of canine attachment, the researchers concluded, isn't provision, it's contingency. The dog's nervous system is exquisitely sensitive to one specific signal. Does this person respond to me? Does what I do change what they do? Is there a feedback loop between us, or am I broadcasting into silence? When that loop exists, something begins building. When it doesn't, the dog remains polite, and nothing more. The science of how dogs select a primary attachment figure has for a long time been explained almost entirely through early development. The socialization window. The first 12 weeks. The imprinting period. And those things matter. They genuinely do. But a landmark study published in 2020 by researchers at Eötvös Loránd University, the same Budapest group, that has produced so much of the defining work on dog cognition, found something that complicates the simple version of that story considerably. They studied adult dogs, dogs who had been rehomed, dogs who had already formed a primary attachment to one person and then, through circumstance, found themselves in a completely new environment with completely new people. The question was whether adult dogs could form a new primary attachment, whether the bond was fixed, set in early development and permanent, or whether it remained, throughout a dog's life, something that could be rebuilt. The answer was yes. Adult dogs form new primary attachments. The process takes longer than it does in puppies. The nervous system requires more repetitions before the prediction system updates, but it happens. The capacity doesn't close. And here's what the study found about how it happens in adult dogs, which is where this gets specific. The variable that most reliably predicted attachment formation wasn't time spent together. It wasn't physical care. It was the quality of attunement during low-stakes moments, not playtime, not feeding, not training. The quiet moments. The moments when nothing was being asked of the dog and nothing was being given, and a person was simply present with them in a way the dog's nervous system recognized as real. Your dog didn't choose you because of what you do. They chose you because of who you are when you're doing nothing. There's a neurochemical layer underneath this that most people never hear about, and it changes the framing entirely. In 2015, the Åbo University study, the one measuring oxytocin during mutual gaze, found something beyond the famous loop itself. Something in the methodology that didn't make it into the headlines. Not all dogs in the study showed the same oxytocin response. The elevation was strongest in dogs who had the longest shared history with their owner. Not the most training, not the most exercise. The longest history. The most accumulated interactions. The most repetitions of the same feedback loop. I look at you, you look back. Something good happens in both of us. built up over time until the neurochemical response had deepened from a reaction into a reflex. What this tells us is that the bond isn't a fixed thing that either exists or doesn't. It is built, incrementally, in the small moments. Each time the loop runs, it runs a little deeper. Each repetition lays down something structural. The choice your dog has made isn't a decision they made once. It's a decision that is being continuously confirmed, interaction by interaction, gaze by gaze, across months and years. You are their person not because of a single moment, but because of 10,000 ordinary ones. Now here's where the research takes a turn that almost nobody expects. In 2017, a team at Princeton identified structural variants in two genes carried by domestic dogs, GTF2I and GTF2-IRD1, that don't appear in wolves. We talked about this in the video on following behavior. But there's a dimension to this finding that wasn't covered there. In humans, deletion of these same genes causes Williams-Buren syndrome, characterized by extreme sociability, compulsive approach behavior toward others, and a near-total absence of social wariness. People with Williams-Buren syndrome don't attach to one person specifically. They attach to everyone. Indiscriminately, intensely, dogs carry the variants. But dogs don't attach to everyone, which raises a question that cuts straight to the center of this video. If the genetic architecture predisposes dogs to human connection in general, why does one specific human end up as the human? The answer, researchers believe, is that the genetics provide the capacity, an extraordinary openness to human bonding that no other species carries. But the direction of that capacity, who it locks onto, is determined by experience, by contingency, by the accumulated record of which specific nervous system has responded consistently across time. The genes open the door. You're the one who walked through it. There's a behavioral signal that most owners recognize but almost nobody correctly interprets. Researchers call it the greeting asymmetry. In households with multiple people, dogs almost universally show a differentiated greeting response. The tail moves differently. The body posture changes. The vocalization, if there is any, has a different register. Not just more excitement, but a qualitatively different kind of excitement. A 2022 study out of the University of Bari filmed greeting behavior in 43 dogs across multi-person households, and then ran the footage through a behavioral coding system designed to measure the specific components of social approach: tail position, ear orientation, body orientation, proximity seeking speed, and tactile initiation. When the primary attachment figure entered, dogs showed higher scores on every single metric simultaneously. Not just tail speed. Not just proximity, everything at once. The whole system activating together in a way it simply didn't for other household members. The researchers described it as a full system recognition response. Not just behavioral excitement, but something closer to neurological activation. The dog's entire social processing architecture lighting up in response to a single specific stimulus. That stimulus is you, walking through the door. Before you've said a word or done a single thing, your dog isn't just happy to see you. Their brain is responding to you the way it responds to nothing else. Here's the part that tends to sit with people. The choice your dog made, the process of selection, of orientation, of one nervous system deciding that another is its primary point of reference in the world. That process wasn't random. And it wasn't entirely about personality, or about who is warmest or most patient, or a 2023 study tracking 40 dog owner pairs over 6 months found that the single most reliable predictor of primary attachment strength wasn't interaction volume. It was stress co-regulation, the degree to which the dog's cortisol patterns had synchronized with the owner's over time, the degree to which one nervous system had literally calibrated itself against the other. We covered the cortisol synchronization research in an earlier video, but here's the dimension of it that applies specifically here. When researchers looked at which person in a household a dog's cortisol tracked most closely, it was almost always the person the dog showed the strongest greeting response to. The person they followed most, the person they oriented toward when something uncertain happened. The cortisol synchronization and the attachment choice were the same thing, two descriptions of one biological reality. Your dog chose you because your nervous system and theirs have been building a shared physiological rhythm, month by month, without either of you doing it deliberately. They didn't choose you despite the fact that they've taken on some of your stress. They chose you through it. The synchronization isn't a side effect of the bond. It might be the mechanism. So here is what the research actually says when you hold all of it together. Your dog's choice of you wasn't arbitrary. It wasn't simply about food or time or proximity. It was about contingency, whether you noticed. It was about attunement, whether you were present in the quiet moments. It was about accumulated history, the 10,000 ordinary interactions that deepened a neurochemical loop, until it became something structural. And it was about nervous system synchrony, two biological systems slowly calibrating against each other. Until your cortisol and theirs move in the same direction, you are their person because of something that happened gradually, mutually, and at a level below conscious decision-making in both of you. They didn't just get used to you. They organized around you. Their stress response tracks yours. Their reward system activates for you above everything else. Their social recognition architecture lights up completely, and only completely, when you walk in. That's not preference. That's not habit. That is, by any rigorous scientific definition, attachment. And the extraordinary thing, the thing that should probably stop you for a moment, is that you didn't have to earn it through anything remarkable. You earned it by being consistent, by showing up, by being the nervous system that was there and present and responsive across enough ordinary moments that your dog's brain quietly built a version of you inside itself and decided, without language, without deliberation, that one. That's my person. If this changed how you understand the way your dog looks at you, subscribe and leave a comment below. Is there a moment you noticed you were chosen? Tell me what it looked like. And if you want to understand what's happening inside your dog's brain in the moment, they dream at night, that video is already there.